I have come to the decision that I must temporarily remove myself from the position as police chief for the city of Sanford. I do this in the hopes of restoring some semblance of calm to the city.
Well, Police Chief Bill Lee stepping down at least temporarily after his department's alleged mishandling of the investigation in the fatal shooting last month of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin by neighborhood watch captain George Zimmerman. What's the legal community saying about all of this? Let's check in with one of our regulars this morning, Kendall Coffey. He's a former U.S. attorney, author of Spinning the Law. And, Kendall, you have no direct involvement in this case as far as we know, but what's your read on it? How badly did the police department handle this thing, in your opinion?
Well, it's certainly going to get a lot of second guessing, especially because it appears that some of the key information that has been developed in the case that could suggest a basis for prosecution wasn't developed by the police at all. In fact, the former girlfriend or the girlfriend of Trayvon Martin, who's been located, was located by the father of Trayvon Martin. It's not supposed to happen that way. People who said they called in with information immediately about the killing said that their calls weren't returned, and that would include some of the witnesses that heard cries right before the shooting. So it certainly was far from a perfect investigation. Whether there's anything that is so bad that, for example, the FBI is going to be concerned is far from to be determined. And the bottom line is we still don't know how good a prosecutable case there ultimately is, because with Florida's stand your ground line, most of the so-called justifiable homicides really are unprovable homicides because somebody makes a claim of self-defense, and if the only other possible eyewitness other than the shooter is a dead victim, then that's a self-defense claim that's pretty hard to overcome. So for that reason, since Stand Your Ground was enacted, in most of these cases, there have not been prosecutions. And in the cases where prosecutions were brought, the defendants were acquitted. It is a big obstacle to successfully getting a conviction in Florida because of the expansion of the laws of self-defense.
Do you expect George Zimmerman, the neighborhood watch captain, to be charged in this case ultimately?
Well, we don't know all the facts yet. I would be surprised, given the outcry, given some of the evidence that's been developing, if he isn't charged. Do I think he's going to be charged with first-degree murder? No. But there's certainly homicide charges that include forms of manslaughter. At the same time, I think anyone that predicts a conviction needs to take a look at the very frustrating history of prosecutions of these kind of citizen shootings. Some would call it self-appointed vigilante shootings since 2005 when the new law was enacted, because since that time, it's a very tough uphill climb for prosecutors.
A new prosecutor has been assigned in this case. How big a deal is that?
Well, I'm glad the governor did that because there was so much question about the prosecutor elected in the community, and he did something which I wasn't crazy about. He said, well, I'm going to let this be decided by a grand jury. Now, that sounds like a good thing, but actually in the state of Florida, it's the prosecutor's duty to file charges in everything but a capital case if the prosecutor believes the evidence supports it. And a lot of times they sort of hand it off to a grand jury because they frankly want cover in high-profile cases. And there was a lot of community reaction that that's what the prosecutor locally was doing, saying, I'll leave it to a grand jury. So whatever the decision is, it's not my fault or my responsibility. I think having another prosecutor brought in from a nearby jurisdiction makes a lot of sense. This case needs a fresh start, and I'm glad the governor decided that it's going to get a fresh start.
Kendall, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much. Kendall Coffey, former U.S. attorney, our legal expert here in the Morning Update. Kendall, thanks.
Hey, thanks for involving me.
Let's go to Matt Gutman following the story for us, ABC correspondent in Sanford. Before we talk about what the chief did, Matt, talk about last night's rally, some famous Americans involved.
That's right. Al Sharpton, Martin Luther King III, among many other civil rights luminaries there. Thousands of people. It was so big, Paul, that they had to change it from the original venue of a local church to this park. It was pretty hastily convened. We don't know how many people showed up. It was in the many thousands. Some people said 30. I think probably closer to 10. But there was tremendous emotion there, tremendous outrage, and what these leaders of the rally were trying to do is channel the anger, channel all of this outrage that we've been seeing in the South and Florida into something that's actually helpful to the people there. And so they were calling for the arrest of George Zimmerman, the man who killed Trayvon Martin, demanding police action now. And they were buoyed, in fact, by the news that had just come out about an hour before this rally began, that the police chief stepped down and that the lead prosecutor, who was going to bring this grand jury together in April to investigate, also stepped down. Another one is being brought in. It seems like the city and the state are trying to clean house in this investigation.
How is it that the chief is stepping down only temporarily?
I don't actually know what that means. We asked them at the press conference, but they stormed out and wouldn't answer our questions. I would think that temporarily becomes pretty darn permanent relatively soon. I don't think there's any chance he's going to get his job back. By the way, this police chief stepping down only 10 months after the previous police chief stepped down, also over allegations of race issues. Apparently the lieutenant's son was caught punching a black homeless man, and then the police force tried to cover it up, and there was a huge purge in the same police department less than a year ago. So there is some serious cleaning house that needs to be done, according to government officials and state officials in the Sanford Police Department.
Matt, experts are saying that there are so many police missteps in this that it's just almost embarrassing.
Yeah, you want me to go through them? Because it may take us a while. George Zimmerman sounded intoxicated on his call to police. No toxicology test was ever taken. His car was not impounded. Nobody ever searched his car. They accepted his claim of self-defense immediately without questioning it. They did not talk to the last person to speak to Trayvon Martin alive, the young woman, 16 years old, who was his girlfriend, heard everything as it unfolded just up to the gunshot that killed Trayvon Martin. Never bothered calling her. They had her number. We got her number. We got the call log, so it shouldn't have been so hard for them to do it. They also didn't follow up with other eyewitnesses. They ignored others. I talked to one witness who said that they corrected her. She said, I heard the young man screaming, and they said, oh, no, you heard Zimmerman screaming. They brought a narcotics detective in originally to investigate instead of a homicide detective. Once Trayvon Martin was killed, they didn't bother to ask anybody in the neighborhood who this young man was, so they just thought he was another dead black teen, another John Doe. He was unidentified, unclaimed for 2 days because of that, even though his father had asked police and sort of knew where his son was. They just couldn't cut through the red tape fast enough in order to give the father back his son. So a number of missteps, and obviously that's had some pretty serious ramifications for the police department and the state's attorney.
Just briefly, do we know where George Zimmerman is right now?
I wish. If you could tell me, Paul, I would be so grateful. That's the million-dollar question. Police saying they don't know where he is, that he is not a suspect, hasn't been arrested, so they're not following him. His phone is off. None of his addresses have anybody there. His Facebook page is down. This guy has become a ghost. I've never, in 12 years of doing this, found anybody who's been this elusive. So if you guys hear anything, please do tell me.
ABC's Matt Gutman, the latest from Sanford, Florida this morning. Matt, as always, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.